Have you ever had a thought and then seen it appear on your phone seconds later? Maybe it was a product, a name, a topic you hadn't even searched, but there it was, staring back at you through a feed that seems to know you better than you know yourself. I used to think it was coincidence. Now, I'm not so sure. There was a time I believed my thoughts were mine, but the more I noticed the patterns, the perfectly timed ads, the echo of my own voice coming back to me in curated content, the more I began to wonder, what if I'm not thinking freely at all? What if I'm thinking in a language that someone else programmed into me? This is what I call the new simulation. And no, it doesn't live in some hidden virtual reality or sci-fi matrix. It lives in your phone, your laptop, your feed, your notifications. The simulation today is driven not by some overlord behind the curtain, but by something far more subtle, the algorithm. We gave it data. It gave us back our identity, or at least the version it wanted us to become. The algorithm doesn't just serve you content, it shapes your preferences, it nudges your opinions. It tells you what's trending, what's desirable, and what's worthy of outrage. You think you're scrolling for entertainment, but what if you're being sculpted? What if you're being taught bit by bit how to see the world through a filter you didn't design? In a way, it became a god, an invisible presence that knows your secrets, predicts your desires, and rewards your obedience with dopamine hits of validation. And just like the old gods, it demands sacrifice. The currency now is attention, and we're all paying every single day. Here in the United States, this is especially clear. We live in a society obsessed with individualism and free will, yet ironically addicted to the most powerful behavioral engineering tools ever created. TikTok tells you what's funny. Instagram decides what's beautiful. Twitter defines what's offensive. But ask yourself, who's really behind those voices? Spoiler, it's not people, it's code. Code that evolves, adapts, and reinforces whatever keeps you engaged and compliant. The most terrifying part? It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like comfort. We laugh at memes, we nod along to hot takes, we compare, we react, we conform, and we call it connection. But what if it's conditioning? Algorithms aren't evil, but they are blind. They don't care about truth or depth, they care about engagement, and often the most engaging things are fear, outrage, envy, and comparison. So if you're feeling anxious, disconnected, or never enough, maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you're just running someone else's program. The question is, can we break free? The answer starts with awareness. You can't change what you won't. Acknowledge. I began small, unfollowing accounts that made me feel inferior, disabling recommendations, turning off autoplay. I started using tech instead of letting it use me, and as I unplugged, I began to remember who I was before the noise, before the script. I remembered silence, intuition, creativity. I found out that real thoughts are quiet, and they don't need a like button to matter. When you pull back the curtain, the algorithm isn't some evil wizard, it's a mirror. And it reflects whatever you feed it, so feed it differently. Curate your digital world the way an artist curates a canvas. Choose inputs that challenge you, that elevate you, that remind you of your power. Follow people who light a fire in your mind, not a hole in your heart. Because in the end, the simulation can only trap those who forget their dreaming. And now you're awake. There's a version of me online that smiles more than I do. He's always confident, articulate, and well-edited. He never hesitates when he speaks. He posts at the right times, uses the right hashtags, and replies with just enough wit to feel authentic. But the truth? He's not really me. And if you're honest, you might feel it too. That strange sense of disconnect between the person you present and the person you are. We've become avatars, reflections built from highlight reels, filters, and feedback loops. Each post, each story, each bio line, they're not expressions anymore, they're performances, not because we're liars, but because the system rewards the version of us that generates clicks, not truth. It's subtle. It doesn't start with deception. It starts with a little tweak, a better angle, a polished caption, a touch of Photoshop. Then one day you realize you've built a self that's easier to like than to live as. And the craziest part, that avatar starts living for you. It answers for you. It's what people fall in love with, or envy, or resent. Not you, but the projection of you. That's the illusion. And it's powerful enough to make you question your own authenticity. In the simulation we now live in, identity isn't discovered. It's engineered. Platforms encourage it. Culture monetizes it. And we internalize it. I remember reading that the average American now sees themselves through the eyes of others, through photos, tags, reactions. We've outsourced our self-perception. We think in third person. But here's the catch. You can't be free if you don't know who's wearing the mask. You can't break out of a simulation you still believe is you. We used to believe identity came from within. Now it comes with analytics, with brand strategy, with an aesthetic, but you are not your username. You are not your follower count. You are not the sum of your digital footprints. You are what remains when the screen goes black. That realization changed me. I stopped asking, how should I present myself? And started asking, what parts of me have I been hiding to maintain the illusion? It's uncomfortable. The real you might be messier, less filtered, but also more alive. See, avatars are static. They don't grow. They're designed to be consistent. But humans are meant to evolve. We're contradictions. We're questions without answers. That's the beauty. That's the truth. And truth doesn't need polish. It needs space. Here's what I learned. Authenticity isn't something you project. It's something you protect. It's not found in a post. It's found in presence. There's freedom in logging off. Not permanently, but long enough to remember how your voice sounds when it's not performing. How your face moves when no one's watching. How your thoughts unfold when you're not curating them. You're not here to live a brand. You're here to live a life. Let the avatar fade. Let the real you breathe. Because the more you reclaim your identity from the system, the less power the simulation has over you. And maybe, just maybe, the realest version of you isn't the one the world applauds, but the one that doesn't need applause at all. There's a moment from my past I used to replay on a loop, a failure, a conversation I wish had gone differently, a version of me that didn't show up the way I needed him to. I used to think I was stuck with it, like a scar you can't erase. I thought memory was fixed, sealed like an old photograph in a dusty frame. But then I learned something that changed everything. The past is editable, not the facts, but the energy, the story, the meaning you carry with you. And when you change that, you change the future it leads you to. I first came across this idea while reading about memory reconsolidation. Neuroscientists have discovered that each time you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily malleable, like soft clay. For a brief moment, your brain allows it to be updated, rewritten, re-experienced. Then it seals back up, slightly different than before. It's like walking into a room from your childhood and realizing the furniture isn't where you thought it was. You can move things around, add color, let in light. Jacob Grinberg hinted at this in his spiritual framework, and now science is catching up. Memories are not archives, they are living code, and code can be rewritten. So I began practicing it. I would close my eyes, revisit a painful moment, not to relive it, but to re-see it. I'd imagine myself responding with clarity, with compassion, with power. I'd give my past self the tools I didn't have at the time, and I'd feel the scene shift, not just in my mind, but in my body. At first it felt strange, like I was pretending, but soon I realized it wasn't delusion. It was integration. You're not erasing the past, you're healing it. You're updating the emotional resonance it has in your nervous system. That's not fiction, that's neuroplasticity. Our brains are not concrete, They're living forests, and every thought, every visualization plants a seed. When you water a new narrative with attention and emotion, it grows stronger. The old path fades. The new one becomes instinct. We've been taught to carry our past like a weight, to see it as a life sentence. But what if it's actually a blueprint, and you hold the pen? Imagine what changes when your history is no longer a source of shame, but a reservoir of wisdom. Imagine walking into your future, not as a victim of what was, but as a creator of what will be. There's a term I heard from therapy circles: post-traumatic growth. It means you didn't just survive what happened, you transcended it. You used it, you turned it into strength. And sometimes the only thing standing between you and that growth is the willingness to revisit the story and write a new ending. So here's what I do. Before sleep, I pick one memory, just one. Something unresolved. I sit with it, breathe into it. Then I imagine it again, but this time through eyes of love, of forgiveness, of self-respect. And something shifts, something inside softens. Your past doesn't define you, but how you hold it absolutely does. So if you're carrying a memory like a wound, maybe tonight, try holding it like a doorway. Because what you remember isn't always what happened. It's what your nervous system learned from what happened. And that, my friend, can be rewritten. There was a time I believed my thoughts alone shaped reality, that if I just visualized hard enough, things would change. And sometimes they did, but not always. I couldn't figure out why some dreams became real and others dissolved into silence. Then I learned something that turned everything on its head. The universe doesn't just respond to thought, it responds to emotion. Not surface emotions, but the deep ones, the ones you feel in your chest, before your mind catches up. The kind that makes your heart race, your breath shift. Those emotions, they are language. Not metaphorically, literally. According to the HeartMath Institute, the human heart produces an electromagnetic field up to 60 times stronger than the brain. That field changes based on how you feel. Gratitude, joy, love, they create coherence. Chaos, fear, resentment, they create noise. Now imagine this field as a signal, a tuning fork, a command line. And the field around you, the quantum field, is listening constantly. The quantum world, as physicists have shown, doesn't behave like the solid, predictable universe we see. Particles shift based on observation. Potential collapses into reality through attention. And emotion, it turns out, acts like the tuning knob that focuses that attention. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you are in coherence with. That was a hard pill to swallow. I had spent years wanting things, success, peace, clarity, while bathing in stress, doubt, and overwhelm. I was sending mixed signals. The field doesn't answer wishes, it answers frequencies. So I started tuning mine. I didn't start with affirmations, I started with feeling. I'd wake up and choose one. Gratitude. I'd sit quietly and find something, anything, that brought a real smile. Not a forced one, a memory, a song, sunlight on the floor. I'd let it grow until I felt it in my chest. That's when things shifted, not instantly but steadily. Opportunities began showing up, conversations aligned, serendipities increased. The outside world began to reflect the inner signal I was finally broadcasting clearly. That's when I truly understood. Emotion is the architect of your personal reality. Grinberg, Neville Goddard, even ancient mystics, they all said it differently, but the message was the same. Live from the feeling of the fulfilled desire. Not because it tricks the universe, but because it tunes you into the version of reality where it's already true. It's coherence. When thought, feeling, and intention align, the signal becomes sharp, focused, powerful. But let's be real. Life isn't always that clean. You'll feel fear. You'll slip into doubt. So did I. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to practice. Every morning, Every breath is a new chance to recalibrate. So here's what I do now. I don't ask for things. I don't plead. I feel the version of me that already has them. Not for show, not to manifest faster, but to become someone coherent with the life I say I want. I sit with my hand on my heart. I breathe in slowly, and I ask, what would it feel like to already be whole, to already be loved, to already be enough? And I let that answer change the way I walk through the day. Because if everything is energy, and emotion is the most powerful energy we generate, then feeling is the most honest prayer there is. So today, don't just visualize your dream. Feel it, and let your heart send the signal. Something is happening. Maybe you felt it too, that strange pull toward something deeper, a quiet rebellion rising inside you, a sense that the world isn't quite what it seems, and that maybe it never was. You're not alone. All around the globe, people are waking up, not to a new app, not to a new trend, but to a new level of awareness. We're beginning to question the scripts we've been given. Who we're supposed to be, what success is supposed to look like, and what's really waiting at the end of all this striving. It's not just a personal awakening, it's collective. I've spoken with friends in Brazil, in Germany, in Ghana, in small towns across the US who all say the same thing. Something's shifting. More people are meditating, more are unplugging, more are searching for truth not in headlines, but in stillness, not in noise, but in meaning. And while mainstream systems tremble, governments, media, institutions, something beautiful is rising quietly beneath it all: lucidity. It's like the world has been dreaming a shared dream for too long, a dream of separation, of scarcity, of not enoughness. But now, the dreamers are becoming aware. We're realizing that the simulation doesn't collapse with violence. It dissolves with truth, with connection, with the courage to see things as they are and still choose love. This shift isn't about conspiracy. It's about consciousness, and the truth is, you are powerful beyond what you were taught. You were told you were just a cog in the machine, that you were small, replaceable, but that was part of the dream. The waking world is different. Here, every thought counts, every emotion creates, every intention ripples across the field. So what do you do with that power? You create. Not more content, not more distraction, but real moments, real presence, real art, real truth. You speak when it's easier to stay silent. You feel when it's easier to numb. You show up as your whole self in a world that profits from your fragmentation. That is rebellion. That is the awakening. The simulation isn't gone. It never will be. But now you see it. You move differently within it. And that's enough. Because once you're aware, the game changes. You become the author, not the actor. And one by one, as each of us awakens, the field shifts. A new frequency begins to dominate, not fear, not control, but coherence. We are not just waking up individually, we are forming a network of awareness, a collective of lucid dreamers building a new reality from the inside out. So wherever you are right now, watching this on a phone, in a quiet room, in a crowded cafe, I want you to know you're part of this movement, this moment, and the more of us who remember, the faster the simulation bends, because the real revolution happens in the heart. Thank you for walking this path with me. If this message stirred something inside you, if it made you pause, reflect, breathe deeper, then this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Subscribe, stay with us. Let's wake up together.